Hey, what's up guys? Node Investor here. Want to bring a quick update on the markets. Ethereum bounces, climbs over 20% in the last day as we see some short covering, some break above resistance, some continued momentum. Pausing a little bit here, so we'll take a look at the charts, some levels to keep an eye on here going forward. Bitcoin is setting up here. It's at a very interesting juncture. We'll take a look at that chart. But first, let's take a quick look at the coin market cap. Back to $200 billion, you can see here in the last 24 hours. Some pretty decent moves. Ethereum up 13%, EOS up 10%, Tron 9%, Bitcoin Cash 9%, Monero up 8%, and Cardano bouncing back has been hit really hard in the last week, bouncing back a little bit, but across the board, seen some pretty good action, pretty good trades in the alts to be had with this move with Ethereum here in the last day. So let's go back to the charts here. I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to do Ethereum first, then Bitcoin, and then we'll look at a few others. But looking at Ethereum here, you can see we've had this strong bounce off the lows, some good volumes coming in here. For those of you that were catching my live stream here a couple of days ago, I was talking about how the trade to the short side had probably run its course and the risk reward favored the bulls, those that are looking to go long. And that turned out to be the case here. And this was what I was looking for. The risk of a short squeeze, of a quick pop to the upside, because it was just so oversold, so beaten up. Everyone was bearish. Everyone was already going short. You could see the short interest had spiked to new highs. And there was a bullish divergence on the RSI. So the odds favored that the short squeeze could happen, but also the risk was just higher to go short on this side. So I had just been sitting patient waiting, and we saw a little bit of resistance being cleared yesterday. It bounced right into the first level, right around that 187 zone, in and around there. Let me move that up a little bit here to show you guys what I was looking at. I was looking at the shorter time frames, but in and around that 187 was really the first level it was testing. Had a nice move off the lows, a little bit of a consolidation, then late yesterday broke right through, and then overnight just continued to see that momentum go to the upside. It's interesting to see that this is respecting the Fibonacci levels as well. I posted this in my group yesterday. Before this was moving higher, I said, hey, it's right at resistance. Looks like it wants to break. This was the first time since back here near the 300s that it had closed above the 10 EMA on the 4-hour chart. That was significant. It found a low, it reversed, hit the moving average, closed above. So you got to pay attention when you start to see that, because it's showing you that the trend is changing. And sure enough, we saw some follow through. I posted yesterday, first target was around that 212 zone. That was because of this 382 level on the fib, as well as this historical price support here. And look at where it paused. On Binance, it went to 212.07, almost to the penny there, and pulling back here a little bit. And that's important because it's respecting these Fibonacci levels, meaning if this decides to consolidate here, stage another breakout, then you can expect that the next target would be 226, and then above that 240 potentially as the next level up. You also got to pay attention to some price resistance in and around that 234. So if we see some strong momentum, that's going to be the next level I'm watching on the upside, that 234 to 240 level. But certainly it's not going to get there straight away. There's going to be pauses along the way if this continues. But this could just as also likely be the end of the bounce. Maybe we bounced right into the 382 level at 212 and hit this major price resistance, and it's in a pause there. So the RSI has cooled off. It's back to the 60. For those of you that follow my RSI methodology, you guys know that I believe if something's going to remain in a bearish tone, the RSI doesn't get much over 60. And on the bull side, it doesn't drop much below 40 when it's still in bull mode. So just something to keep an eye on here. A couple of levels, a couple of indicators that I use as secondary confirmation. Ultimately, it's price action for me first, but it is consolidating. A little bit of a pause happening here as we speak. Looking at the Ethereum short interest on Bitfinex, you can see here it is reaching a little bit of a top. Going to that daily chart, you can see we're still near the highs, so not a lot of short covering. We did see some a couple of days ago, a little bit of a bounce, but it is pausing here a little bit as some of the bounce plays out. So just something to keep an eye on here near term. Let's go take a look at BTC. So Bitcoin is at a very interesting juncture here from a price perspective. If you look at the bounce here, it's paused right at this horizontal price resistance around that 65.50 zone, in and around there depending on the exchange. But you can see this bounce has gone right to that and is pulling back. Now the good news is it's still above the 10 EMA on the 4-hour, Right now, this is just a healthy pullback, a healthy pause right before resistance. We see that very often. And so it is setting up for a potential break higher, something to keep an eye on. If it moves higher, there's not a lot of resistance along the way up. So the next level I'd be looking at here on the first level is around that 6,800 level as my first upside target if it continues higher. So something to keep an eye on. This one was setting up yesterday. It was kind of one of those next move wins, mostly a no trade zone for me. I just kind of been waiting this out, looking for the setups, both on the long and the short side. Finally broke higher yesterday after it broke this downtrend line and just has been marching up slowly. But I use this mostly as a directional indicator, meaning once BTC started to show some momentum to the upside, Ethereum confirmed, then I went long on some of the alts as a way to leverage some of this move. But BTC certainly has been looking positive, but now it's pausing here, so this is going to be interesting. The bear view of this, though, is going to the daily chart. You can see this bounce is looking a little bit like a bear flag. It's bouncing right into this resistance. You can see this rally briefly went over that 10 EMA on the daily. It's pulled right back, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. That's why I'm saying we're at a very interesting juncture here from a price perspective, because we're at a key horizontal price resistance level as well as an exponential moving average resistance. We're bouncing, and we bounced right off of a key support level. So what we don't want to see is this materialize into a bear flag and then a break to retest that support, because after a pattern like this, usually that support will not hold and you'll see this thing break lower. Conversely, we're right at resistance, setting up above on the 4-hour chart, so that is looking positive, which is why I'm thinking we could also just as likely see a move to the upside. Right now, the bulls have a little bit of momentum, so I'm leaning bullish, but you got to be paying attention to this pattern, because this, all things being equal, is a very bearish pattern. You can see we had this big drop, a little bit of a bounce here, a very nice rally, huge drop, and then another bounce that we're seeing here over the last week, right into that moving average, letting that RSI cool off a little bit. So just something to pay attention to. You don't want to lose sight of this if you're going long, even though the momentum in the near term has been in favor of the bulls. I mean, the 20% move in Ethereum in a day, very nice. Bitcoin's looking good. So certainly some good setups, some good moves here over the last 24 hours, but just pay attention, because we are certainly bouncing right into a resistance point right now. A couple more to watch here. I was pointing out EOS during the live stream. I was looking at a potential inverse head and shoulder pattern that really didn't materialize, but the effect was still the same. I was looking at this downtrend resistance line. It did start to poke above yesterday, started to look pretty good, so I entered a position here, had a nice little pop to the upside. It is bouncing into my first target and consolidating here a little bit, so just something to keep an eye on here. On the hourlies, this still looks pretty good. Got a little bit overheated on the 1 hour. You can see the RSI was approaching that 80 mark. Right now it's pulling back, so the first level to be watching is this 10 EMA as it catches up. Right now it's forming a very nice consolidation, a little bit of a bull flag setting up here, so now I'm going to be looking for some more upside follow through on the next move up. Of course, this is ultimately going to depend on what BTC, and to a large extent now, what Ethereum do on the next day or so as they consolidate here after that big pop. So just something to keep an eye on. This one's still looking pretty good. Another one is Litecoin, having a little bit of a V-shaped bottom, strong bounce off of that 47.50 zone, bouncing right into that $55 mark, into that resistance, but so far looking good. A little bit of consolidation here along with several of these other names, but nice strong low here. So what you want to see on this pullback is a higher low. If it can maintain above this 10 EMA, even better, and then that will set up for another break higher. But just something to watch here. Litecoin's looking pretty good after finding a good low versus BTC here. You can see that's also been outperforming a little bit, but look at where it bounced right into that prior support, which gave way, big break lower, bounce right into resistance. Usually when something's going to remain bearish, this is where they fail. That's the end of the move, and then it just continues lower. So something to keep an eye on here. When it comes to Litecoin, I'd be paying more attention to the Litecoin BTC pair, because a break above this resistance here in the near term would be very positive, would undo this big break lower. But right now, odds favor that's the end of the move for Litecoin, and it's going to underperform BTC here in the near term. So that's going to be it for today, guys. Just keep an eye on these levels with BTC here, setting out for a potential another leg higher. That was a good first move off of the low. Now we're watching that pullback to see if it makes a higher low, especially if it can hold above that moving average. But ultimately, we want to see some follow through now, break above that resistance around that 65.50 level. So thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and like and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.